When the sun's high in the sky, there's a time for every people to affirm their destiny. La 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 la. Even so, all of us together can create a better land. Leave the past and new tomorrow waits for all who understand. There's a morning for every nation when the sun's high in the sky. There's a time for every people to affirm their destiny. La 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 la. Even so, all of us together can create a better land. Leave the past, a new tomorrow waits for all who understand. La 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 la. Leave the past, a new tomorrow waits for all who understand.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. And I'll be reading from Rays of the One Light by Swamiji. At the Heart of Silence, the Eternal Word. That's the title. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. In the Gospel of St. John, chapter 1, these immortal lines appear. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men, and the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. And the commentary, human vision beholds individuality and separation everywhere. Divine vision beholds the oneness of cosmic vibration, of which all things, no matter how diverse, are manifestations. Cosmic sound, or the Word of God, and cosmic light, these are eternal. The world as revealed to us by our senses is illusory. In Autobiography of a Yogi, Paramahansa Yogananda relates an early experience he received of the divine aspect of reality. He says, "Sitting on my bed one morning, I fell into a deep reverie. What is behind the darkness of closed eyes? This probing thought came powerfully into my mind. An immense flash of light at once manifested to my inward gaze. Divine shapes of saints, sitting in meditation posture in mountain caves, formed like miniature cinema pictures on the large screen of radiance within my forehead. 'Who are you?' I spoke aloud. 'We are the Himalayan yogis.' The celestial response is difficult to describe, but my heart was thrilled. 'Ah, I long to go to the Himalayas and become like you.' The vision vanished, but the silvery beams expanded in ever-widening circles to infinity. 'What is this wondrous glow?' 'I am Ishwara, I am light.' The voice was as murmuring clouds. 'I want to be one with thee.' Out of the slow dwindling of my divine ecstasy, I salvaged a permanent legacy of inspiration to seek God. Wise as we are, if we meditate on, wise are we if we meditate on that experience of Yoganandaji's and salvage from it even a breath of his inspiration. For quite simply, there is nothing else. As the Bhagavad Gita says in the 7th chapter, I make and unmake this universe. Apart from me, nothing exists, O Arjuna. All things, like the beads of a necklace, are strung together on the thread of my consciousness and are sustained by me. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
This is from Whispers from Eternity, a book of prayer poems by Paramhansa Yogananda. This one is entitled, May I Reap the Greatest Harvest in the Short Season of this Earth life. My allotted plot of consciousness was small. Carelessly I let it grow barren. It produced no crops of inner life-sustaining culture. Now the bleak winter of dead opportunities approaches with its pall of unproductivity. My lot is small and my life season is short, yet now I would produce a mighty harvest. I will expand my kingdom of willpower. To do so, I must conquer new states of consciousness, enlarge my achievements, and outgrow, in consciousness, every limiting horizon. But, O Father Divine, there are billions of my hungry thought families and their little ones to feed, and for them I need a big harvest during this short season of my earth life. The irrigating waters of my craving many times grew dry, while my soil of inner culture was left undeveloped. Now I will work all the harder, using the machinery of scientific technique in my search for Thee. O divine sower, with thine unseen hand, throw thy living seeds of inspiration into the cultivated furrows of my awakened resolution. In this short, remaining season of my earthly life, let me reap the largest harvest of all, thy cosmic vision. It's such a nice time of year because it is the beginning of the new year, which always brings us new hope, new inspiration, this new season. And it's sweet because it's at the darkest time of the year in the northern hemispheres anyway. In Chennai, we sort of notice, oh my gosh, it's getting pitch black about 10 minutes earlier than usual. It's not much of a difference. In North America, the sun goes down so early that it's very noticeable. But here, the difference between the longest day and the shortest day is about an hour and a half. And so 45-minute range is, not much that we notice. And on the equator, of course, there's no difference at all. But generally, this is a time of affirming new light, new life, partly because it is dark, again, elsewhere. But the thing is that though that's a good reason to affirm light, there's actually not a good basis for the new year to have it right now. The more proper time to have the new year would be at the beginning of spring. In fact, historically, that is when the new calendar began, and some calendars still begin on the spring equinox. We talk about new life coming forth in the spring and all these things, and how happy we are on March 21st, and then how sad on March 31st, because I'm joking. Close of the financial year. Actually, it's a good thing that the financial new year starts April 1st. It's close to this time of the spring, so maybe somehow accidentally it's tuning into a deeper truth. But the thing is that there isn't really an astronomical basis or an astrological basis or really any kind of a good rhythm for why this time is the new year. So maybe later into Dwapara Yuga or maybe Treta Yuga, we'll fix the calendar and start the years counting at a more appropriate time. But in any case, it is the new year, and I'm not suggesting we petition the governments to change the calendars. We have other things that we could work on first. But the thing for us here on this path is that in addition to the new year, January 5th is Yoganandaji's birthday. And so we have a wonderful rededication time to our Guru, celebrating his birth on this earth, but not thinking of it as history only or something that happened, but something that is still happening, something that's happening again for us in this lifetime, not just his arrival on earth, but his arrival in our lives. We all remember our life before coming to the spiritual path, before reading Autobiography of a Yogi, before learning to meditate, before Kriya, and then after. And I don't know about you, but what I can say is my life before really was not worth mentioning. Just a footnote. Yes, in the sense that it gave me the life lessons that I could get onto the path, sure, fine. But still, really my life began when I read Autobiography of a Yogi and when I got on this path seriously. And furthermore, for us in Chennai, January is a beautiful celebration of one more holiday, the third holiday, which is the January 20th is the day that Swami Kriyananda gave his discourse in Chennai that 3,000 people came to, some of them here today, and that launched this whole work in Chennai. There had been classes and energy happening before, building up to Swamiji's arrival, but it was really that night that began this work that has produced these beautiful chairs and this carpet, but really all the souls that are here. That's what I mean. I'm joking about the carpet and the chairs, but the point is that it's immediate. Because of that day, we are here now. And it's not just that we owe our gratitude to that day, though that's to Swamiji, of course that's a lot, but also to feel his loving presence now. It wasn't just that he said, Chennai needs a center. He was saying that Manjula needs a center, and Damodaran needs a center, and we all need a center, and there are many more to come who, just like we, are entering into the spiritual path to find joy, to find happiness, to find, which is something I found, meaning and purpose in my life. Till this time of getting on the path, I didn't have much meaning and much purpose. I was trying to find it, trying to sort of scratch it out of my life experiences, but I just came up with dust. There wasn't anything that I could see that was lasting, that was permanent. And furthermore, any of the worldly goals that I set for myself, to be a professor or to be a computer scientist or any of these things, I didn't see that everybody who had achieved those things necessarily had any happiness. Some did, some didn't. It seemed to be more or less arbitrary. And none of them seemed to have a permanent, thrilling, lasting happiness. It wasn't that I was judging them. I didn't have it either. But I was wanting it. I was seeking it. I think all of us do. And when we find something that works, then we have great joy. Sometimes people come onto the spiritual path, as this was a conversation that a question that someone asked Swami Kriyananda. She said, I'm very seriously on the spiritual path and my husband isn't. And he said to me the other day that, you are trying to live this holy life and, do your meditation or whatever you call it and your prayers and so on, but you always seem nervous and tense. And whereas I basically have my beer and my television and I'm basically happy. And she said to Swamiji, and it's true. And so what's going on here? And Swamiji said, well, it's nice that he's happy for now. Let's just see. And at another time he said, we are seeking a happiness that isn't dependent on if the TV shows are good and the beer is cold, or the weather is nice and the idli is just right. Even if the idli becomes cold, we could still be happy. Even if the dosa is burned, could we still be happy? That's the true test of a devotee, at least here in Tamil Nadu. And so we want our joy, our happiness to be independent of circumstance. Because sometimes things go right, and there's no problem in being happy when things are going right. There was a very brief time when I was reading about astrology, and when a few friends of mine heard that I was reading a book about astrology, they said, oh, can you look at my chart? Vani, would you mind just closing the door? It's okay, we can just close it. So they said, oh, can you look at my horoscope? And I said, why? They said, well, because you've read the book. And I said, well, it doesn't mean I know anything. They said, yeah, but I don't want to read the book. So you spare me the trouble of reading the book and tell me something about this or that. And I didn't, understand anything really about astrology, but I did understand transits, I understood that Saturn moves through the sky and that it's in a certain place. The point is, everybody who came for advice was being squeezed by Saturn. That's why they were coming for advice. Nobody came saying, Jupiter is blessing my life, everything is going well, money is flowing, friendships are harmonious, I am inwardly happy. Please explain why. Nobody cares why. Everything's fine. Why should I ask questions? In fact, it's probably due to my own cleverness that things are going so well. It's when there's a squeeze that suddenly we say, help. Suddenly it's kashtam. And what's the explanation? Everything was going fine and then it wasn't. And that is the story of our life here. This world, as I was saying to some of you earlier this morning, is not our home. And once in a while we get reminded of that very pressingly, because we have a desire for home. As Dharmini read the affirmation for love, we have a desire for love. It's a hunger that we have. Another hunger that we have, as Master writes in Autobiography of a Yogi, is wisdom. The phrase is, wisdom is a native hunger, meaning an inborn hunger. It's just a part of us. We want to understand. We want to find that joy. That's what samadhi means. Yes, literally in English it means oneness, and we can talk about all the sort of metaphysical and spiritual implications of it, but what do any of those really mean? If we can define samadhi in 4 different ways in Sanskrit, still, what have we got? Just a bunch of Sanskrit, until we've realized that. And so how can we even say, I want this, in a way that we can put energy behind? Samadhi is happiness all the time. Bliss is a state of joy all the time. I am happy because I am happy. That's a good thing. And it's a good thing to remember, because as Master said, and it's not an easy teaching, circumstances are always neutral. They appear positive or negative according to our reactions, according to what we place on them. Now that can be difficult to understand, because a very difficult thing, we say, how is this neutral? Such a horrible thing happened, how is it neutral? And then such a good thing happened, a box of jangri came. No, it's just neutral. I'm sorry, it's not neutral. But it is. What if the jangri makes us sick? It makes some people sick, so it's not good for them. So we can at least say for some it's good, for some it's bad. But really, what do we make of the experiences that come to us? What do we learn from them? We're always learning something. I'd learned that I was allergic to wheat. And when I eat wheat, I get sick. It's like I have the flu or a viral fever. That's sort of the symptoms. And in India, it's much harder than in America for me. I don't know, maybe my system is already working overtime, and then the wheat just comes and knocks it out. But I was telling some cousins of mine who are a little bit skeptical in general about all things related to me. And especially this, I said, because what happens is when I eat the wheat, I get sick 2 days later. And that's another part of this sort of how Maya is so clever, because you don't get sick right away. If I would eat the wheat and suddenly, I would never eat it again. But I eat it and I'm fine. And then 2 days later,
You don't eat it.
yeah, if I were to eat it. But at the time, I was explaining this to the cousins, that I eat the wheat and then I get sick 2 days later. And they said, then how do you know that it is the wheat that makes you sick if you only get sick 2 days later? I said, by repeating the experiment 1,000 times. Because I didn't want to give up wheat. I was very happy to eat it. And I thought, maybe it's not this. Let's try one more time. And it took on the 1,000th experiment, and, nearing the point of having to go to the hospital, I thought, okay, I think it's the wheat. And so this is what is, unfortunately, it's not just allergies, but other lessons. Sometimes that's what it takes for us to learn. 999 conks on the head. Yes, but this time it might work. You see? As Master said, seeking smiles where the smiles don't come from. I mean, if you're shopping for smiles, don't go to the frown store. Oh, look, they might have something in my size. They don't. It's all just, we want to go to the smile shop. We want to go to that place where the joy is. When we find that joy, hang on to it. Seek it out in the way that works for you. And this is something we have to be reminded of constantly, because as Dharmini was reading, that light comes into our lives. And we can say, yes, it's all light. How do you know? Well, people have said that. And so I say it too. It's good to know a truth intellectually, but it's something we want to realize. It's something we want to feel. And so every time in our lives, every day, let's find ways to bring more light in. And it's very easy. If we do energization exercises in the morning, it's sort of like every morning for me, it's a miracle, just kind of. Suddenly the eyes start to open, the heart starts beating again. There's some very faint brain activity starting to register. And it's like a resurrection. And every time we meditate, we can even enter into our meditation. And then we come out of it. If for no other reason than, look, I meditated. Okay, it wasn't much of a meditation, but I did it. But then we notice the day goes better. There's more of a flow because we have put ourselves in harmony with the universe. We are a part of the universe. We are not separate. We're God's child, and He's watching. Divine Mother has a close eye on each one of us. And each one is special. It's not as if she looks after most of her children, but not all. Have you ever heard of that? A mother comes home with 4 out of her 5 kids, and one is left at the store, and she said, that's all right, it's most of them. And she said, actually it'll be simpler now with only 4. No! Here's a panic! And so Divine Mother doesn't have to panic because she knows where we are, but still, she keeps a close eye on you. And each one is precious. And so let's find ways each day to reaffirm that light in our lives. Again, it's so beautiful to think of Swami Kriyananda coming to Chennai and saying we must have a center here, because that brought light into all of our lives. For us too, we are so, Dharmini and I are so grateful to be here, and it's been such a beautiful experience for us to be here with all of you. You all are of what made it so beautiful. In the first year, we were thrilled to have that 3,000 people came to Swamiji's talk, but we were wondering, will they come to anything else? Were people just curious? Oh, on that, or was it just a special day? Or was somebody offering, sambar vada in the front, and that's what drew everybody? We didn't know. Would it actually happen? Would people come back? Of course, that wasn't why people came. But they came for Swamiji, and they continued to come. That's what we were wondering too. Suppose we start a center in Chennai. People may come once to sort of see the foreigners, but will they come again? And so, but people did. And then you know the rest of the story and how it's grown. In fact, it would be nice to do some kind of a celebration next Sunday, because next Sunday is the 20th. So it's the actual day, and it's happening on a Sunday when we're all here together. And so anyway, we can think about it because it will be the 6-year anniversary of that night. And so each day, let us try to find some way to bring the light into our lives. You could use the same way. I reach for the play, I click on play and Swamiji starts singing songs and I find more light in my life. Fine, you can use the same thing. It doesn't have to be a new thing. But it will be new in that moment, you see. It's sort of like when we eat, we say, oh, what's this? I'm having uttapam again. No, it's just, but it's today's uttapam. You see? And so who complains about that? If there's the same thing is giving us that joy. So reach again for satsang. Reach for videos of Swamiji or of other people, whatever, inspires you on this path. books of Master's voice. We got to hear a lot of Master's voice last weekend when we were celebrating his birthday. But let us remember this fact that everything is made of light, and let's be made out of more light. Let's bring more of that light into our own lives, because as we do, then we begin to share that light with others automatically. Maybe, someone asks us, what is it that you do? And we can give them autobiography of a yogi if they're interested. But just the sheer fact of being joyful in a world that needs joy, needs more light, this can be very encouraging and helpful, and even a service to others. As long as we remember it's not our light. What light, you go to the light bulb store and you sort of say, oh gosh, I can't pick which light bulb I need. They're all so bright. They're not bright. There's no brightness in them at all until they're connected to the divine current. Same with us. Yes, inherently we're made of the divine current too. Yes, sure. But when we actually project that, when we share that, when we get out of the way and let that come through, then we also are radiating God's light to others. And remember, the channel is blessed by that which flows through it. So when you share that love, self-consciously, not in the sense that I am sharing my love with you, but no, that the love that I feel from God I can't contain, and it's just rippling out of me. People will see it just in your face, just in a smile, Swamiji had this experience. He went to a university because the Shankaracharya of, I think it was either Puri or Govardhan Math, was coming to America, and Swamiji was a part of SRF, and which was Master's organization, and they were this was after Master's passing. They were sponsoring his visit to the Shankaracharya's visit to America, and so Swamiji went to a university to arrange a lecture for the Shankaracharya. And he was speaking to some head of the College of Religious Studies or whatever it was, and so he just met with the man and said, "We'd like to have this great honored guest from India speak." And the man said, "Certainly, of course," and all the arrangements. But it was very just sort of official, having to do with this transaction, basically. And then as Swamiji was driving back home, he suddenly remembered the man's eyes. And he felt there was a lot of light in those eyes. He hadn't really noticed it. He was just thinking of him as a university official. But in retrospect, he remembered the feeling of those eyes. And he realized this was a very spiritual person. And in fact, it was. He later learned the man who was Ernest Wood was a very well-known author on Indian teachings and spiritual path in general. And a very deeply spiritual man himself. It was the same way when Swamiji met Sister Gyanamata. After meeting her, he was driving to meet Yoganandaji, and he remembered Gyanamataji's eyes, and he felt she was a great soul just by that memory. Not because she said, "Hello, I am a great soul," just so you can behave appropriately towards me. No, great souls never act like that. And that's something actually that I had a hard time understanding. Swamiji always spoke about how wonderful Master was, which I completely believed, obviously. And at the same time, he kept saying, and I'm nothing compared to that. And, it's all God, it's all Master. And I couldn't help but thinking, yes, Swamiji, but it's also you. Because it's what I felt coming from him. And I remembered my life before I met him. I remembered my time also meeting him, but also everything I had received from him through books, through music, through all the people that he had trained, who I had much more contact with, Jyotishji and Deviji and many, many others. And it wasn't just that they had helped me, it was just the sight of them, and so many. How could it be that there could be 50 inspiring people or 100 inspiring people when before in my life I had met very few? And again, I don't mean it in an egotistical way that no one came up to my measure of what true inspiration was. Maybe they were inspiring and I just couldn't feel it, but I felt it when I came to Ananda and I met all of these great souls. And I knew that it had come through Swami Kriyananda. But when he said, no, it's not me at all, I really couldn't believe that. I thought, okay, he's being humble, that's, and he meant it sincerely. I didn't think it was a pose. But I couldn't quite relate to it until Swamiji left the body. And then suddenly, when people were asking, us about him, or we were seeing his videos or whatever, or sometimes people were saying, oh, what a, great teaching that was. We said, well, it's all from Swamiji. And so, because what I have seen is so much more, and of course what we all can see still in all the videos and everything, is so much more, then that makes me appreciate that what we can do to be most helpful is to share that with others. There's very little we can share of ourselves, unless we think of ourselves as a part of that truth, and then certainly, of course, but it's the truth that we're sharing, not just our particular spin or our particular insight. It's that universal truth that will touch all souls. But again, the soul we have to worry about is our own. The universe gives us one job in this life, ourselves. One riddle to unravel, to solve, ourselves. And when we get free, and as we grow free in that, then we will find more and more joy. We will be able to share more and more joy. So in this new year, let us, if it inspires you, let us renew our commitment and deepen our commitment to live more in God. This was a phrase Swamiji used once when speaking of the new year. Let us live more in God. Let us do more God-reminding activities, not with a sense of competition or a sense of, yes, well, let me look at my other activities. No, nothing like that. Just in a sense of, let me reach out to Divine Mother more each day. Let me find new ways. I was talking about finding the same way that works every single day, fine. But let's also try new ways. For example, you could write in a journal some of your happy dreams that you might have had, inspiring dreams, inspiring experiences. You said, well, it's been a while since I've had any of those. Well, remember one from a long time ago that maybe you hadn't written down, and write it down. Or, if you're having a hard time priming the pump, and checking the mirror and seeing, and something's wrong with the mirror because it shows back the face in the wrong way because all I see. Then, if we're having one of those mornings, then just in your journal, if you like this practice, or even in your mind, come up with 5 things that you're grateful for, and 5 things that today or yesterday you're grateful for, you thank God for. Gratitude is the easiest way to open the heart, because we have a lot to be grateful for. And it's as soon as we can start to think that, a lot will flow. So try singing the music, just like we did today. You don't have to be a singer to sing the music to yourself. And if you want to be a singer and aren't quite yet a singer, the first step is just to match notes. Play a note on the harmonium and sing that same note. And then as you work on that, that's how we train ourselves to sing. But we can listen to the music and sing along at home. Someone was introducing themselves to us yesterday saying, I am a shower singer. And so it was very sweet to hear that, because I think that's something we can all relate to. So remember, your voice is beautiful to God, and so you don't have to be shy. And same thing for chanting in a big group. Let's all just chant. We don't have to hold back. So find ways. Let us all find ways to live more in God. And remember, too, that one way that we can do that is by being together. As Nayaswami Haridas has said, sometimes we heal each other at a glance, with a glance. And what, of course, he didn't mean walking around. I am ready to heal. I have said prayers for you. I am sending my vibrations. And here's also some, beetroot or something like that. No prescriptions. But just a happy face, a friend. Suddenly, we take a deep breath and we release that burden of what we were holding on to. When we're attached to wanting love or joy or friendship from somebody who just isn't giving it, And we're so attached that our hand is like this, hanging on to something that's not even there. Our hand is empty, at least my hand right now is empty. But still, I'm clinging. The challenge of that, in addition to the fact that there is nothing there, is that I'm not allowing any other friendship to come into it. Because my hand is not only clinging, but closed. And so let us also open our hearts to each other as souls in God, and be grateful for the fact that we don't have to walk this path alone, that we can see positive qualities in others. And as Swamiji said, invite those qualities aboard the ocean liner of your own consciousness, like passengers. We can absorb those qualities into ourselves, that we can share with others our, what's your favorite chant? How many times have you walked into the office and said, what is your favorite chant of Yoganandaji's? Probably 0 times. But here you can. So it's sometimes ironic that the thing that's most precious to us is the thing we can share with almost no one. And so it's so nice when we do have others to share it with. And so in this year, let us share in God. Let us each live more in God, and let's find God together in this lifetime. God bless you.